Hi everybody, John Meadows here. Another dieting video. We're talking about summer's here. We're talking about dieting a lot. How to lose weight successfully. I've been giving tips on that. This one's a little different. I also have a lot of competitors that are finishing up their competition season now, and they were competing in the spring, and those shows are winding down. And even if you're not competing, what if you just finished a diet phase or a get lean phase? And you're wondering, how do I come out of it? So that's what this video is all about. It's how do you reverse diet? Or is a reverse diet necessary? We'll call it how do you reverse diet. So I've got a little different take on it. And I think I've changed my mind over the years a couple times on this. So I'm gonna let you know where I stand now, and then maybe in 2 years, I'll make a video that's the complete opposite of what I'm saying today. So the approach has typically been to do this very methodical, to do this very methodically by bringing up your carbohydrates or your calories slowly week after week. And as I've observed over the years, you know, I've obviously coached a lot of people, non-competitive and competitive. One of the things that I've found is that it's just not reasonable. Most people, after they've dieted for, we're just going to say 16 weeks, they don't want to keep eating ultra clean and only add 50 grams of carbs to their diet that week or 25 grams of carbs. This is just not going to work for most people. They've had so much mental stress and anxiety, and they've been in such a calorically deprived state. And it just blows my mind that people don't understand reality. Now, every once in a while, you're going to get somebody that's a machine, and they'll be like, yeah, just give me an extra cup of oatmeal this week. Next week, what, an extra cup of rice, whatever. And that's great. But I think to just by and large tell people this is how you have to reverse diet. You have to be very methodical. Go up, 50 grams of carbs for 10 days, and then go up another 25. I think for most people, it's just not going to work. It's just not realistic. And the other thing is I think people underestimate how much of a deficit they're in. So they bring their calories up after they've just been brutalizing themselves, and they're still in a deficit. They'll say, hey, I haven't gained any weight back, and it's been 3 weeks after the show. That might be good. It may not be good. Your body doesn't want to be at an ultra low level of body fat. Like, it doesn't want to stay there. My absolute best was when I did the Arnold Classic in 2016. I got to 3.7% underwater. I felt absolutely horrible. I felt miserable. So for me to just stay at that body fat level for a long period of time would have been extremely unhealthy. Very, very unhealthy. So for someone to want to stay that lean, first of all, it's just not healthy, not doable, unless you're a complete genetic freak and that's just how your body looks. If you're that 1 in a million people, then that's different. But what I tell people is forget the small incremental jumps and get right back up to at a minimum maintenance. So if you were dieting on X amount of calories and you really feel like, say, 500 calories above that was your maintenance level, that's the minimum you have to go. I would actually advise you to go much higher than that. I would say to go up more like 500 or even 1,000 calories above that. For a male, probably half that for a female, depending on how much you weigh. But I would rather somebody put on fat quicker for a short period of time. I would rather see that. If someone's real healthy at, say, 10% body fat, I would rather they get to the 10% body fat quicker than for them to take 3 months to get back to the 10% body fat. The reason why is that 10% is where they feel good, their joints feel good, everything just feels better. Their hormones are coming back to normal quicker. So I think that's a wise move. So I want you to be much, much more aggressive after you complete your diet and getting your calories back up to, we'll say, 500 to 1,000 above maintenance. Okay, that's very simple advice. Now, I would also say this. It does carry some risk with it. People think that when you compete, when you're done, here's one of the big, we could talk about this just in itself. People think that when you get done competing that your insulin sensitivity is awesome and you're just going to shovel food down and you're going to grow like crazy because insulin sensitivity is so high in muscles. Well, guess where else insulin sensitivity is really high? In your fat cells. So there is some risk with this. You're generally going to gain back fat probably a little quicker, if not more, than you're going to gain back any muscle you've lost. In fact, I feel pretty confident saying that. Most of the weight gain that people have relatively quickly, it's just fat and water, and probably primarily water, actually. But if they lost X amount of pounds of muscle, they're going to gain back the fat faster. And you got to be careful because there is, your body can actually make more fat cells. Now, I don't know how long that process takes, and I think probably if you're cranking your calories way above maintenance over a long period of time, then I think the chances of you gaining fat cells, actually increasing the number of fat cells themselves, not just making the fat cells bigger, but making more of them fat cells. Because think about that long term. Now when those fat cells get bigger, now you're stuck with more fat cells. So you can see where that can become a never-ending loop that creates diet distress. But I do feel pretty confident in saying that the people I work with, when they're really aggressive for say, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they don't typically have a problem getting lean again. Now, if somebody just went ballistic and they went crazy, 2,000 or 3,000, 10,000 calories, if they went crazy, I think the risk of that becomes really high. And that's why I don't like for people to just pig out. In fact, if you watch the other video, I talked about putting in a refeed, putting in cheat meals every once in a while. If you've done that, you will be much less likely to just go bananas and go haywire and just go to a buffet and just sit there and pig out. So that's the part that scares me. I want people to bring their calories up, but I don't want them to get out of control. I think that to me is more risky in creating more fat cells. So I want you to bring your calories up pretty aggressively, probably for 2 to 4 weeks. Put fat back on your body, get back to that healthy state. Your hormones will thank you, your joints will thank you, your friends will probably thank you, you'll be in a better mood. Okay, now the general advice that I'm giving you, I can't say that it applies to everybody. There's one thing that drives me nuts, it's when people give advice and say that this is the perfect prescription for everybody. There are people that should not get as aggressive when their diet's over, because once they get a little bit of food, a little extra food in, maybe they go crazy. Maybe they just can't quite control themselves. Maybe there's some eating disorders there, things like that. And that's reality. That does happen in our industry. If you're in that kind of situation, I would actually advise to be much more methodical. That 50 grams of carbs a week that I was laughing at, that actually now becomes a good solution for somebody who needs to maintain control and to not go crazy. So I think in everything, particularly with dieting and gaining weight and refeeding after a show, all these things that we all talk about, there's always this individual component, the principle of individuality that you always got to weigh in. And I think we get hung up in looking at all these studies on leptin levels or conversion of T4 to T3 and all this stuff, but we forget about the psychological factors that are involved. So if you get somebody that is a little bit, they have a little bit tougher time psychologically, be a little more methodical about bringing their calories up. If you have somebody that maybe had, for example, like a binge eater, you probably don't want to send them out to get real aggressive right away. You're probably going to encourage that behavior. Probably not a good idea. But generally speaking, all things considered, I do like to be a little bit more aggressive and bring the calories back up over maintenance the way I talked about. So that's it. I just wanted to share that with you. I think it's another one of those things where we probably overcomplicate it and make it pretty crazy, when I think really you just look at the kind of the psychological component of the person. Also look at what they have coming up. If it's summer, do they have events coming up, things like that. Those things play into it. So anyways, I'm gonna stop there. If you have any tips for our viewers, make sure you link them below. We're coming up on 200,000 subscribers now, so I also want to throw in a thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. And as always, let me know what other videos, what more I can talk about that you want to hear about, and we'll get on it. So thanks, and we'll see you next time. If you like that video, I know you're going to love my app, available on the Google Play Store for Android, iPhones, in the Apple Store. There's so much information on here, it's amazing. Training, workouts, hundreds of workouts, nutrition methodology questions, chemical enhancement, supplementation, client prep, and a Q&A button. Check it out.